Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bunny and the Beast Season 3. It is our first ever interview of the series. I'm not interviewing my Dowager of Depression. I'm always joined by my gorgeous Bunny galore. But, Bunny, who do we have today?
And joining us now is a delectable treat. She is a West End star. She's a West End writer. She has her own series on Amazon. And more importantly, she now has her latest murder mystery novel about to come out, the very first one, called Murder in the Dressing Room. Please welcome to the stage, Holly Stars. Hello, darling.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having me on. How exciting.
Thank you for joining. You must be absolutely swamped with everything that's going on at the moment.
Oh, I'm fighting the magazine requests away like nobody's business.
Take a break.
A moment of privacy, a quiet time.
You're in the Daily Mail. What's his name?
Exactly.
They love me.
It's really exciting, Holly. So we've known each other for quite a long time. I think since the series, is it Holly Stars Inspirational was the title of the Amazon show? I think when originally that happened, I think someone sent me that in the kind of embryonic first season of it. And I fell in love with you straight away. What I wasn't expecting then when you wrote Death Drop for the West End, which has had about at least 3 iterations that I can remember, that you have a love for murder mysteries. Where does that come from, Holly?
Oh, I've always loved a murder mystery. I especially love them on the telly. I do. I haven't yet watched your Midsummer Murders, but I shall.
I've not put that on yet.
But yeah, I've always loved a murder mystery. And I think that the first books that I ever read that had any kind of LGBTQ plus representation in them were a crime novel series by Jonathan Kellerman, and the side detective, the sort of secondary detective, was a gay LAPD police officer, and I was a teenager. I'd never read anything before that had a queer character, and so I sort of devoured that entire series, and ever since I've loved a crime novel. So I think that's where it came from.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I think, because I have to say, weirdly, one of the things I want to do for this year is actually to write a murder mystery. But I wouldn't be, I have to say, it wouldn't.
Dying.
I know. I didn't say career.
Where's the candlestick?
I didn't say career-wise, James. I said this is fictional. But I wouldn't probably because I grew up with the Agatha Christie stuff. I wouldn't be even think to go with LGBT. I wouldn't be that drawn into that world. I'd be drawn into quite a cozy world, I guess. So I love the fact that that's the most obvious thing to do. I think is to do that for you. It's such a you've done it on stage. Why not do it in book form?
Yeah, I'd been trying to get a crime novel published for ages before Death Drop. And then a literary agent came to see Death Drop, and I was like, maybe I'll just send her a DM. And she didn't like the crime novel. You've got to go for it, haven't you? She didn't like the crime novel that I'd already written, but she said, if you write something else, let me know, because I like your style of writing. And that's when I thought, well, maybe if I write something a bit closer to Death Drop that's sort of draggy and camp and silly, then that might be what she's looking for. And it was. She was interested in that, and that's how we came up with Murder in the Dressing Room. And so it's all queer. Pretty much every character is queer in the book. A drag queen is murdered backstage with a poisoned chocolate. And her drag daughter investigates to try and catch the killer when the police don't seem too interested. So it's a bit camp, but it is a proper crime novel at the same time. So it's kind of a nice blend of the two for me, because it's what I like to read.
Is it one of those like murder mystery crime novels where it's like has all these different characters and every single one of them could have had a motive where be any of them throughout the entire book, rather than chapter 1 you go, oh, it's the old maid?
Yes.
I'm right here, James. Rude.
I didn't say mutton.
Mutton! Outrageous!
Old ham.
I'm very brave today, apparently.
Bold behaviour with two queens on the podcast.
Yes.
Yes, but the answer is there are, there's a set of suspects who had access to the dressing room, and Misty, our drag queen detective, sort of picks through who it might be. But yeah, it's a whodunit, the first one in the series. Yeah,
The first one in a series. That's an exciting thought, isn't it? Oh, she could be like a blockbuster series, straight to Netflix.
Well, there will be 3 for sure. So there's 3 been announced already, and I'm just finishing the second one and doing the plotting for the third one. So it's kind of fun to have this sort of longer story as well of what's going to happen to her over time.
Oh, it's following the same character over all 3 as well.
Yeah, the same detective. Yeah.
Oh, that's just genius. Well, congratulations, Dan. I love that. Because I think one of the most important things with any writing is the world building. And people then will want to come back to visit that world. It's the one piece of advice I've been given about writing myself was to just build the world first. So I think that's genius. So people, I can't wait to read it. I've already brought it on Audible because I tend to do that more side of things. But obviously, I'll get a physical copy as well. But I do love and you've done the recording for Audible, haven't you? For the
I did do the recording for the audio, but that was, I'm not going to lie, that's the scariest bit of the whole thing for me. I will never listen to a single second of it. I cannot deal with it. But I was worried going into it that it would just be so cringeworthy to sit and read my own writing for 3 full days out loud. And that was a really terrifying thought. And also the thought that if I've said something in the wrong way or the wrong tone or whatever, I can never change it. Like, that's it. It's a performance that's out there forever. So I did it as sort of draggy and campy as I could, I think. Each chapter's got a sort of mini cliffhanger at the end, so I sort of went into all of those and
no, why? I'm so excited.
It was a fun learning experience, if nothing else.
Well, you've got to do it 2 more times as well. I assume you're going to read both the other 2 as well when they're done.
Yeah. Got to do it twice more, so there'll be 3 lots of audio books out there that I can't bear to listen to. But
it is quite a scary prospect because we're used to seeing ourselves on screen. I think I'm used to, because of the podcasting, I'm kind of used to listening to myself now, but I've never really done it in a fiction way, or like in a factual way. So I've never been sitting there going, then the moon came out and this happened. And so what is that? We're used to being ourselves. I'm aware of the irony of saying that. But being ourselves but to be like a storyteller is a bit different. I know I do that perhaps with the movie hosting stuff. I will be factual, but it's still Bunny Galore introducing the movie. I'm not trying to be a critic. I'm not trying to be break the plot down in that way. So that's an odd, where'd you gauge it? But I can't wait to find out, Holly.
You can listen and tell me if you think I did it all right.
I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. So cool.
Where did your imagination inspiration for the books come, both and all the other writing projects that you've done? Where is that? Have you always been like a writer, or is it something you kind of fell into?
Yeah, I've always been writing for my whole life and trying to do crime fiction. That was always my plan, of what I wanted to do. And then I sort of gave up a little bit on that and started writing stand-up comedy instead. And so then I was channeling the writing through that. And then I was asked to write Death Drop. And then after that, I thought, maybe now is the time that I could start trying to do something a bit more crimey again. And it just, the blend of the performance work with the crime fiction seemed to be a nice fit for me. So that's where it came from.
I think it's an interesting world, isn't it? Because you've made me really realize how much I loved that side of things. I think during the pandemic as well, we all lent into true crime podcasting and stuff like that, or YouTube videos, because we might be in a plague, but at least we're not being cut up by a serial killer, which is
where
it could be worse. But enough of my private life. But
as someone who can barely write their own name, how do you write a novel? How do you?
Yes, how do you do it?
Apart from obviously sit and type, where obviously there's going to be some sort of imagination or some sort of creativity, and that. What do you use for your process?
I start with the crime and the mystery, and I don't like to know the answer of who's done it myself until I get near the end. Mm-hmm. So I wrote most of Murder in the Dressing Room, the first draft of it, without knowing who the murderer was, and then in the end I was like, oh, that's the murderer. And then on the subsequent rounds of editing and rewrite was able to plot in clues and all the rest to sort of flesh that out. But to begin with, I just wanted to find a sort of Jonathan Creaky sort of unsolvable mystery for my detective, and then it's kind of fun as a writer to work out what the answer is. So that's where I start, imagination-wise, is with the mystery.
That's probably the best way to do a whodunit kind of murder mystery. Being as a writer, but I don't even know at this point who has done it yet. So you're still figuring out as you go, rather than it's going to be Bunny Galore killed Carla Bear and she did it with I did this, and that from the outset. And Merrick like to watch as well.
It's weird. Is whenever I've written with the you made me realize with the soap opera thing I used to do on YouTube, Pantry Manor, that had a lot of elements of various whodunits and a little bit of Hammer horror thrown in, but also Crossroads, but a soap. But I never really sat down and wrote it like I knew what was going to happen. I think I had the voices in my head, but I had the actors that I had around me, and it just kind of organically came out. It was the weirdest thing. Whether I should have plotted it is another thing. Probably should have done, but it just became this. It was a great exercise in the wilderness, wild west of YouTube back in the 2008, 2009. It was quite an interesting writing process. But whenever I've tried to go back and people have said, "Would you write it as a TV pilot?" Well, yeah, sure. Can't even begin to think where to start. So sometimes I think it's better to do it organically and just let it kind of go wherever.
Yeah, and I think also you just have to go for it. Just have to go for it and say, I'm just going to write it and see. Yeah. And if it's because it'll all get rewritten and edited, and other people get involved later, and whatever you write down that first attempt, that's not what goes out to the world in the end. So you just have to get something on paper, and then you can fix it later if you need to. So I'd say with your pilot, just do it. Just write something and see where it takes you, and then fix it after if you have to.
Yes.
But yeah, that's my approach. Has always just been to just go for it and see.
How many drafts of Murder in the Dressing Room did you have to do till you reached the definitive, this is going to be published piece?
Too many. Too many. I never want to read that book again. We did, I think, 3 rounds of edits with the agents before it went out on submission to publishers. And then once it was signed by the publishers, then we did 3 more rounds of sort of rewrites and edits with the editors. Then 2 rounds of copy edits for the language, a sensitivity reader, and 2 lots of proofreads. And all of that had to be done twice for the UK version and the US version. So I don't know how many versions of it I've read, but it's definitely too many.
I've got a headache just hearing that. My Lord.
It was a massive process, much more of a process than I realized at the start of it.
It's funny, is it? I never realized that you would have to, with that, change it for America. I guess it's for the odd trash can, rubbish bin type of things, I guess.
Yeah, and they had some questions as well about references of sort of pop culture references from the UK, like whether certain things could be tweaked to fit an American audience a little bit more. we didn't do that in the end. I wanted to keep it quite British, so most of the references stayed as they were.
Yeah, and people have got Google nowadays, so you can always Google. Because I do think of a lot of your humor is like French and Saunders, Victoria Wood. It's kind of steeped in Englishness. A lot of your references, obviously the if they need to Google Beverly Callard, they're just going to have to Google it, basically.
They might need to. She does, of course, get a mention. So,
love it. I think it's an ultimate crime that she never turned up to Edinburgh Fringe show or any iterations of the stage show.
One day.
We'll send her a version of the book exclusively as well.
Yes, we should.
Is there a restraining order? Does she know about your love of her?
She knows of my love of her. She does, yeah. And she once sent me a couple of years ago, a really lovely Christmas video to say thank you for supporting her and watching all of her projects and stuff. So she's very, very kind to me, considering the amount of tat that I tag her in on Instagram.
I don't think I've ever laughed so hard as like it's the bribery for like, this is Beverly's seat, and today we've got I don't know what, but ice rings or something, and there's a bribe. That was amusing me. How was Edinburgh, by the way? Did you enjoy that? Is that the first time you've done it?
It's the first time I've done it, yeah. Do you know, it was fun. It was a bit of a mixed bag. I'm not sure I loved Edinburgh Fringe, but it was nice. I had nice shows. It's unpredictable, isn't it? Like, some days it's rammed and you have to get the extra chairs out, and then other days there's like nobody there.
Yeah,
and
it was very. So I did it a long time ago. I took Bunny Galore in 2008 there. Why I thought that was a good idea 2 years before Drag Race was invented. I don't know what I was trying to prove, but there were a few queens. I think it's because Lily had been there a few, probably 10 years beforehand, and it'd gone really well for her. So I think you kind of went, and at that point, I know this character and what I was doing was still very much is pre the burlesque era. So it was kind of a one man show theatre kind of concept at that point, but it was very up and down. I enjoyed everything that happened around it, not so much the show itself, because it was a bit of fluff. And I'd seen Bob Downs and Pam Ann the year before, and I wanted to aim for that, thinking I could just walk in straight into that. In 2008, what was I thinking? But a lot of things came out of it, including the soap opera thing, because that was a sketch I used to show when I changed. I used to watch it. I didn't need to go that far to get changed. I used to watch it and go, oh, there's something in this. And that's where that, then it went on for a long time after. It's still, being shown in America. But it's something always will come out of Edinburgh, whether it's just exhaustion, hysteria.
Maybe. Yeah.
There we go.
Yes. So experience. We've all played the Flynn once upon a time, haven't we?
So, but I think for you to do it now is much more when you're much more empowered. You've done so many things. It's a lovely thing to do now. I think that just broadens your brand already.
Yeah, it was nice to do, and I enjoyed the show. The show was a really fun one. It was one that I'd written a couple of years before called Justice for Holly, and I rewrote a big section of it, but the story was that she'd been nicked and super drugged for rubbing lipsticks, and it was all part of some ridiculous shoplifting pyramid scheme she'd set up to get revenge on her neighbors. And so it was a big, long, ridiculous story, and it was really fun to tell that story every day. I really enjoyed that. And the other thing that was really nice about Edinburgh was I was in the same venue as Auntie Ginger and Dolly Diamond, and the three of us sort of teamed up to do a co-promotion, and then me and Dolly have just recently done a show together that we've written together since Edinburgh. So, really nice connections came out of it, and it was fun.
That's the cute bit, isn't it? Like Dolly, we've been following each other on social media for a long time. We've not met in real life, I don't think. Auntie Ginger, isn't it? That I've only met for the first time about a month ago. Saw them performing. I went, "Oh my god, you my new favorite thing. Who are you?" And I went, "Oh, I've heard of you, but I've never seen you before." She was hilarious. But yeah, Dolly's on my list of people to kind of sit down with a cup of tea and I think she's
Dolly is amazing. Her show Fringe, I went to see twice because I was like, I cannot only see it once. It was so good. It was like maybe my favorite drag show I've ever seen. I was like, this is fantastic. So yeah,
the show with Dolly as well over Christmas. Is that right?
yeah, we did. We did one called The Audition, where we were each the final candidate to play Cinderella at the London Palladium Panto. We were in the waiting room waiting to hear who had got the part. So it was a very silly, sort of half play, half cabaret situation.
I think that's genius. I can't wait to see who got the part next year.
Well, eventually we'll do it again next year, or this year, and you can come and see it.
No, at the Palladium. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
So over the years, what's been your inspiration? What brought you to be this fabulous darling? And as far as live performing, do you have any, apart from Beverly, obviously, the comedy icons yourself?
Oh, comedy icons. I don't know. I suppose Abfad's a big comedy influence in terms of, you know, how horrible can a character get before it tears you off completely? Do you know what I mean? Like,
You and Eddie.
Well, I'm probably more of an Eddie, but I haven't got the glamour of the Patsy.
No, I think I'm very much Eddie as well. Don't worry. But very, very, very. In all aspects of life, not even this. It's just that's just everything.
But then later, so I guess there's lots because there's such great. We have in the UK, it's probably the best character comedy in the world. If you think about, you know, Lily Savage and The League of Gentlemen, and you know, there's such really fun, dark adult character comedy going on, and I think that all of that plays a part in inspiring me, I think.
Yes, no, I agree. Same. Lily, League of Gentlemen. I kind of have, as far as characters goes, obviously Victoria Wood and French and Saunders, Ruby Wax to a certain extent, and even, you know, Dame Harriet Thorpe, you know, kind of people sort of come into my life. But it's, I think you're right. It certainly comes from, especially in the 80s and in the early 90s where Fab starts, it was very much a phrase. Fortunately, I came around when that kind of went out of fashion. That's what I wanted to be. And then suddenly it was all stand-up comedian, straight white stand-up comedians in a T-shirt for years. So it took a while until the burlesque era came around where kind of I found a space. What I loved about Holly was you arrived completely fully formed, you know. There was no rehearsal. That was it. It was kind of she was that raw and accessible and relatable straight away, and doing what most of us don't really do, which is being completely unafraid to be silly. And I will be silly, but like this, it's still a certain level of prettiness I still like to kind of hold on, and that's probably because I'm 3 times your age. So it's a bit like I kind of need to keep the pretty going, otherwise it gets a bit scary. But I would in pantomime world, it's weird. It's kind of got that sort of, you know, where you have to make you have to be in on the joke, and I still always am in on the joke. And sometimes I forget the glamour is there because I kind of forget that I only get the odd pushback on social media, particularly going into America now. It's kind of, but I'm like, it's like, don't you realize it's funny? I'm not taking myself seriously. It's weird.
But I think that's the most important thing about doing this, about doing drag and comedy and, you know, podcasts or whatever, is that people don't want necessarily to listen to something serious all the time. Don't want to, you know, come to a comedy show where it's all, you know, about the serious things that have happened in your life. And sometimes it's fun just to listen to some nonsense. And
exactly. It's full and miserable enough as it is. So having a bit of silly escapism doesn't hurt at all. I think it's a lovely little welcome break, to be honest.
I think all 3 of us are kind of, that's our remit. I have a feeling that's kind of what we do.
How was Holly born, Holly? Holly, how was Holly born, Holly? What's her origin story?
I was born on the kitchen floor because my mum didn't know she was pregnant like Sonia off EastEnders. That's how. And I looked exactly like this. wearing this jumpsuit that I've had resized 17 times since the day of the birth. And that's how I came about.
Magical.
Some people wouldn't believe, but it's true.
Immaculate.
Oh, no. It's miraculous. I think. Well, my mother succumbed to the first contraction in a matinee at the King's Theatre Southsea, and it was. And I think that's where my love of theatre comes from. Was probably because she didn't bother to leave the matinee. She waited to the end of that one. That's what happened.
That's why you're so theatrical.
That's why I'm so theatrical. Oh my God, it's foreshadowing. It's uncanny, isn't it? And how, more importantly, Holly, how is Gary?
Oh, Gary's good. I had a nice letter this week, and he's getting out next week. So we shall be reunited soon.
When I be ignorant and ask who's Gary?
Gary's my husband, Gary. He's been away for a little while, but he's getting out next week.
Yes.
So I shall stock up on the Frey Bentosses for him, and we'll have a lovely celebration.
I do actually love a Frey Bentos, I have to say. It's like one of my guilty secrets. It really is. It's that and some tinned potatoes, and you're off. And
oh, delicious.
So I think we're actually pushing our luck, I think, with the timing of this, but hopefully it's all okay. We'll be there. If you had you've done pretty much everything, but is there something else you'd like to do? Is there any sort of ambitions you have left?
Oh, yeah, loads of things probably. I tend not to plan too much ahead. I've got a new play that I've written that's being pitched out at the moment to people. So maybe there'll be a new play, but it's not a comedy. Well, there's some dark comedy in it, but it's not a comedy like Death Drop was. So it's a bit more serious. So I've got a new play that is out there at the moment, and then my focus really for the next 6 months, I've got to finish book 3 by the summer. So I've got
Oh gosh,
a ton of Misty Divine writing to do.
Oh, did you have an inspiration for Misty as well? Is it based on anybody? Is it amalgamation of things? Is it your point of view?
I think she's a sort of mixture of lots of different people, and no one real at the same time. Out of drag, Misty is Joe, who is a hotel accounts assistant who is too nervous to do a lot of the investigating by themselves and depend on their partner Miles to help them with the Q&As and stuff. But they discovered that the power of drag gives them a sort of confidence boost, and as Misty they can sort of walk into a place and ask all the questions. And so the book's written from 2 perspectives, from Joe's perspective out of drag and the sort of challenges they have with confidence, and then Misty's perspective in drag as a drag artist operating and sort of investigating in a non-drag world. So it was quite interesting to write her and find that balance of how much in drag and out of drag there was going to be in the book. But yeah, I don't think she's based on anybody, but I think there is a general consensus, isn't there, that when a drag artist is in drag, they do have a feeling of empowerment and strength that they don't necessarily have out of drag. And so I tried to reflect that as much as possible, but obviously it's exaggerated for the story.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that aspect. It'd be great because you get to learn both characters, both personas in equal measure as well. That's lovely.
Yeah, well, do you know what I was getting a bit frustrated with is that often when drag is featured in crime fiction or fiction sort of generally, the drag artists are shown really often only from their professional perspective. So we see the sequins and the glamour and the excitement, and we see some bitching backstage and all of that, but there's so much more to the world of drag than that. There are relationships with partners and friends, and there's a sense of community, and that isn't always reflected in crime fiction when drag is. And so I wanted really to show that there's a bit more to drag than what people see for the 15 minutes they see a performer on stage.
Yes, totally. I agree. It's funny. I was watching the episode of Murder, She Wrote where probably one of the first times I've seen a drag queen in that world. And it's the guy, it's Kaniki from Greece. I've forgotten his real name now. But it's kind of like, Angela Lansbury's like, do you notice anything strange about this place? And it's like the most bougiest, like, hotel kind of gay club you've ever seen in your life, or drag club you've ever seen in your life. But I guess it comes from that realm, perhaps, where, drag was in straight world much more. Perhaps you were like you get those performers that were kind of, big on that sort of cabaret scene. But he does look like a trucker with a wig on type of thing. And it's like, oh my, and his girlfriend is Angela's niece or whatever it was. So it was like, it's so different. So this is why I said yes to Midsummer Murders, because it was like what I was doing. It was just, just looking pretty, really. It wasn't like, it wasn't a speaking role. And they were like, would you consider that? And I was like, yes, are you mad? Of course, it's Midsummer Murders. Yes. It's like, it's just such an iconic, huge, big ITV show that I don't care if I'm there for 5 seconds. As it was a bit more involved than that. And what was sweet was they really wanted to get it right. So they'd asked me to come in and do makeup tutorials with the makeup team. I'm like, I knew some of these people from the West End. It's like, I can't teach you anything. I just put makeup on, push it around my face until it's in the right place. But I was like, okay. But I realized, I thought, should I get like Bones or Ophelia Lovin, who people are like, snatched? And I thought, well, actually, probably the actors playing some of the roles probably won't be young, pretty things. And then they weren't, as it turned out. So I was like, well, this is how you just got to change the bone structure, basically. So that was fascinating. And they were really, whether it's what I was doing is turning up in full drag to see another drag performer, perform in a club, which none of us do. But, because it's on camera, you'll be like, well, you want to see the prettiness, don't you?
Yeah.
But as far as the characters, it went really well. Sorry. No, as far as the characters in the show itself, it went really well. That's what I meant.
Good. I think it's great that Midsummer Murders had a drag episode. I think, yes, we want more of that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
We want more of that.
Exactly. Well, I can't wait to see the movie version of Murder in the Dressing Room. I think that's going to be stunning. It's going to be great. We can imagine.
That would be so fun. That would be so fun.
I think I think we're living in such bizarre times that I never thought you do see the difference with Drag Race and how it's kind of moved things into the mainstream. I was always trying to break through that glass ceiling, but it was really hard to do. Now it's kind of like I get asked to do things which I've been in areas where I never thought I would be asked to do things in, it's really strange, isn't it? But great at the same time. So I think we have to kind of ride this wave as much as you can, which I think you really have, Holly.
Yeah. Well, Drag Race has done amazing things for drag, and I'm always I can't watch all of it because it's too much of it. But when I do watch it, I'm always just so impressed by the casts that they put together, for the variety of talent that each of those people have. To be able to go on television and film over 3 weeks, singing, rapping, sewing, makeovers, who can do all of that? I mean, it's amazing. So it's great that they have a platform where they can really show all the cool stuff they can do, because I couldn't do it.
Not in that space of time. It does make me go, really? Perhaps in about 6 months filming. Sure. 3 weeks, I'm not so sure about. It's a lot to try, especially things where you like girl group challenges where you're like, oh my God, you've got to do that in 24 hours. Now, I do a lot but it is certainly pushing out of the comfort zone, isn't it? But it has really opened up the world. It really, really is. Well, Holly, thank you ever so much for joining us today. I can't wait to sit down and read the book. When is it actually physically out in the UK and America?
This is the first ever copy. I'm very excited about that. It's out in the UK on the 6th of February. And I'm doing a launch event at the Phoenix Arts Club. There are some public tickets if people want to come. It's going to be a cabaret and a launch event at once. So 6th of Feb in the UK, and then sooner than that in the US. So it's soon. soon.
Yeah. Amazing
So
stuff.
exciting.
Well, very exciting. So go to Holly's socials. I will link them in the description of this, and I'm sure all the links will be there. Congratulations! I'm super proud of you. We can't believe this is happening. And for 3 books as well. That is well, I can believe it's happening. It's just wonderful to see it. So congratulations, my darling.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the podcast. What a treat to come and chat to you.